So, welcome to today. I'm Christine.
I'm Liz.
And we are Double D-Fense. We're an all-female New York Rangers podcast, bringing you fun conversation about our New York Rangers, the NHL and hockey, and so much more. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Christine. Happy Friday.
It is Friday. It feels like a long week. It's because I was out this week. We have a dirty little stay out this week, so it was fun. But yeah, nice. It's nice to enjoy a Friday. And I'm tired, so I'm sitting home watching hockey tonight. So they better all be good games.
I feel like they have all been good games, and I will say, it is more relaxing to watch the playoffs, knowing that less pressure. Our team is out of it, has been for a long time, obviously. And it's really nice to watch other fan bases get completely.
This is how the other side feels. I'm not used to that, but I understand. So so I get that.
And not just the playoffs, but I feel like this week and I guess the end of last week too, in terms of hockey, I just feel like we've been bombarded with so much information from coaches being fired, and not just on the Rangers, but a lot of other teams too. All of the breakup day exit interviews, which I know we're going to get into on this episode, and just nonstop people's opinions.
I know. I know we're getting bombarded with every time I post something, well, I'm either getting the sad faces, the happy faces, the good look, so, we appreciate that. Definitely. A lot of the feedback, has been coming. We're still accepting, the final thing of Sam. And then, now we're having to kind of regrow, and it's definitely a big reset. How big of a reset are we looking at? Last week was Easter, and we couldn't go a nice quiet weekend and have an Easter, right?
Nope.
We had to fire a coach first. Let's do that before Easter, which I guess wasn't a surprise, but
and I'm sure anybody listening is keeping up with the news, but just in case you are not, Peter Laviolette, the Rangers coach for the last several seasons, was let go at the end of this season. However, the GM of the Rangers, Chris Jury, was not let go. Actually, the opposite of that, he had an extended contract. So it's just been interesting to observe what's sort of happening in Rangerland with that news, especially with all of the news about the drama that was happening behind the scenes in the locker room.
Right. And, and the way that it happened, I think amplifies kind of the buzz about everything, so you fire the coach, then they did the exit interviews, and interestingly enough, not really surprising, I was saying it all along too, when everyone's kind of complaining about, it's the players, it's the coach, and I always stuck to my guns. I'm like, yeah, but we don't know what goes behind the scenes, and with the way things were handled, it was terrible. So I always took it to the higher level, and you know what? That's kind of what they said, so these guys got a little bit more outspoken. I feel that they were before, last year, especially quiet Mika, and he kind of said, look, that communication from, the upper levels wasn't good, and, and caused, strain, throughout the season. It's kind of what I said. So, again, we're kind of seeing, we talked about this last time too, about, are we going to start seeing a trend of, these players being more vocal about things, and they kind of were. And then when they kind of say things and kind of start validating kind of certain things between injuries that we learned about that they were hiding and stuff, which was another thing we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, that could be an entire other podcast with some of the information that came out. And I think you're probably referring to Kreider, who had, objectively a pretty lousy season, but then it came out that he had a back injury and he had a hand injury and he had vertigo. But why were they letting him play through all of that? That seems like a dangerous choice on so many levels.
I know. And so that got me right there, and but at the same time, it's like, and this is what I kind of thought too. We'll kind of talk about Kreider for a second in that situation. I know they hide it for reasons, of not, inducing further injury if they're able to play. But at the same time, he was rumored to be floated around as being traded. So he's a commodity. So they're not going to reveal anything at that time because it's going to lower his trade value, in my opinion. So I don't
But
know.
I just want to stay on that for 1 second, because isn't it interesting to reveal it all now? Because doesn't that, so
We had
this,
to.
this so
Yeah.
the season just ended, and for all intents and purposes, everybody seems to think that Kreider is out the door, including members of the team who handed him the puck from the last goal
Yeah.
that he scored. But now, knowing that he's injured, maybe he becomes much less of a commodity. Maybe he's not traded. And you know
Well,
me, I still remain a huge Kreider fan, and I would love to see him not get traded through all of this.
well, he's still in contract, so a trade would involve him to agree on things, so it's not as easy, but it's not unforeseeable.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an interesting thing. It will definitely keep us busy over the summer because everything's up in the air. You know, again, you have a couple, and I think Kreider might be going to surgery, so you have a couple players kind of recuperating, doing things they need to do, and potentially ready for the next season. I was reading an article too, where as it comes up, we have a lot of contracts that are coming up, and they're all over. Most of the people know, and you can see. And I think I posted it too, and I'll probably do it again as to who's really whose contract is up and what we're going to see. But they're saying that they're really feeling only 4 people. You want to take a guess? 4 people are truly, really safe from being traded. You want to take a guess? Not even
Shesterkin has to be one of them.
Sarkin is one of them because he just signed a major
Yeah,
contract.
yeah.
He's
I'm gonna
definitely one.
say I'm gonna say Adam Fox. I think he's under.
Adam Fox is another one.
Who else? I mean, is it someone like Borgen who they just want to keep around? Because it's not.
No, no, and I just think it like maybe based on contract or kind of more of a solidified kind of view on what
I want to say
you know.
Panarin, and I hope that Panarin's on that list. But I know that with
Yeah.
the news that broke at the end of last week, there have been a lot of calls for him to
Oh
get
yeah,
traded.
that.
Hopefully that does not happen.
I'm not going to acknowledge that because we don't know all the facts, and it
I
was taken
totally
care of,
agree
and
with
it
you.
was a year old. So,
Totally
um,
agree.
so that one, is not worth talking about. But no, he's not one of them actually.
Interesting. I'm trying to think who else is a definite is definitely saying it. It's not Mika. It's not
Well, I mean, maybe you're overthinking it too,
so
and it could be based on contract or maybe solid performances. We'll go with. I don't know. Uh,
everybody's been such.
this is from Vince Mercogliano, so based on what
No, so
he.
tell me who are the other who's.
So the other two, so the 4 that they feel are kind of safe from being traded for sure are, Shesterkin, Fox, Miller, JT Miller,
Oh God, yes,
and,
thank you for clarifying.
and and Trocheck. So, they're saying there's your base. That's really the only people like that they can really feel are going to be a non-issue, non kind of thing, going forward. And so, yeah, and then with, I think they said 9 players, have contracts that are coming up, and then, depending on what happens, with some of the other players that, yeah, that, they could work a deal out of their contract. I think they were saying too that Mika's want to stay because he's got a no trade clause in his contract. I was just reading that.
And also, I know Mika had struggled at the beginning of the season, but once JT Miller came onto the Rangers, Mika like woke up again, and he actually had a great end to the season. So, he's a great player. He has that ability. Maybe with the right partners and the right coach, I think he could have a smashing season next year. So I would hope that
Well,
he
let's get some
stays.
coaches in there right now. We're not, we're sans a few right now.
Yes, we are.
And But here's an interesting thing. So Steve Valiquette said something too, which I really, so we've been kind of talking about who to blame. And, everyone, we got to blame somebody, right? Isn't the nature of life right now? Let's blame somebody, and then so, even you were funny when Laviolette got fired, and you were like, see ya. And I'm like, but wait, he was a great coach last year. Didn't we love him last year? Why do we hate him now? Like, did you and you're like, yes, and yes, and yes, everything's true. We liked him last year. He's great. Now he's not great. And I liked what, because one of Mika's comments again, was talking about miscommunication and everything. And what Steve said, he's like, when accountability is shared by everyone, it's usually owned by no one. So
interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of true, because I think we've seen all three parts, and it's a kind of loaded statement, and so it's like managers manage, coaches coach, and players play, and so, but where are the deficiencies, and again, I said it all along where, we don't know as viewers and fans, we don't know. So reporters are going to get the information. It's limited to what they know and inside sources, but really the only thing is behind closed doors. And that's what was being said when they came out in the exit interviews. Which was interesting. So, was Laviolette coaching on direction of Drury, and then he gets blamed for it? I mean, when the players are out there playing, are they listening to what the coach is saying or what they're doing? It does all get mixed up. So, should they stay in their lanes? Maybe, and when they're not playing, should they remain silent, which we're not seeing them doing? I'm interested to see how this summer transpires on that. Who goes, who stays, who's brought on, so we'll see. And with that, so now we have the rumors of coaches and stuff.
So many rumors.
The latest one being Tortorella again, which is a no.
Every day I see something random that somebody's posted about who it's going to be.
So here's one that I really liked. And there was a thought, long shot, but I'm like, Jessica Campbell.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so, and I think it's the idea of kind of giving, I mean, we're seeing more and more action of not only the PWHL, which I'm representing now because they are heading into playoffs. Since we're not, somebody is. And so, could it be we've seen a huge rise in the PWHL? And by the way, too, I'll throw in that they have now announced an expansion team for next season, Vancouver. So congratulations there. They're selling out. They're all their arenas. They're expanding. These teams are run by women coaches. And so we're seeing more women commentators, women play-by-play announcers, way more than an Emily does, so but we're seeing that, and it's nice that it's accepting in a lot of the teams and stuff. So she did a great job, assistant coaching. Would that be a thought? It is a long shot, of course, but I like that it's getting thrown out there. Like, throw it out there, put it in the mix, and do that.
It's interesting too. I think something came up on social media, not about the Rangers. I think it's about the Islanders, but there is a woman who I think is an assistant GM somewhere. I should have saved it. I didn't. I apologize. But she's an assistant GM and she's interviewing for a GM job. And that would be interesting to have a female as a team GM.
The Islanders have a vacant position themselves, proving that GMs can be let go. So I was hoping we'd follow the trend, but we went the opposite way. Well, right now there are a lot of vacancies. Really, we all know the world of hockey and coaches, right? They don't get new coaches, although they have said they're not opposed.
They were they were very clear that they wouldn't be opposed.
But all they really do is recycle around.
Well, that's a problem. I find that I would not mind seeing somebody who had not been an NHL coach before take the lead. These guys, I think, come in part of the issue. I mean, you see it all the time. You deal with these massive egos. And I think a lot of these coaches who probably have, these big winning records might not be able to see the big picture through what they think that they know. And maybe a first time coach is actually more flexible and more open minded. You know who I'd love to see? I'd love to. I don't even know if it's a realm of possibility, but Steve Valiquette would make an amazing coach or an assistant coach in some kind of way. I wonder if that's something that's ever
Yeah.
crossed his mind, because his analysis, when he looks at the game,
Send a message.
his analysis is so on point.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, all the people. Okay, and by the way, everybody wants Messier, but you gotta remember these people don't want these positions. I know you want them to, but
Yeah.
so
They have their cushy in front of the camera job. Why not? Why not? They were all playing harmonicas the other day.
although let's take it out of the box too. Like, Tortorella, I sometimes I've enjoyed him. I just enjoy how volatile he is, and it's entertaining.
Passionate.
And and we keep saying like, again, they got to cater the younger generation. What's the coach that's going to kind of get the young motivated and into playing and stuff? And I think this day and age too, like, I wonder if he's, one type, let's say not him, to kind of stir things up enough, to kind of get things going. And unfortunately, it depends on how much they stir up, this pot and team over the summer. Are we looking at a major rebuild or a little fix, for stuff in a reset? I was chatting with Elizabeth on Instagram, and where we were talking about coaches and stuff. And I'm like, the other part of it too is, look, we've been firing coaches every 2 years. The minute we lose or we kind of go down, they fire them. It's not I don't know what coach would want that, knowing that, they're potentially going to be let go in a year if they sneeze wrong. And so,
Exactly.
you
Exactly. I
know,
hope they pay well.
so what is it going to matter? Especially when these coaches have trends of having like the third year, be, the one that sets everything straight, and and they have a history of that, and we just keep letting them go. And hey, by the way, teams that make it far in the top, usually their coaches have been there for a while. So there's got to be something there. You have to get stability and stuff. I'd hate to have a job where, you mess something up within the first year, and when it's also probably dependent on other people, and you're the one that gets let go every year,
Like you were saying, somebody has to take the blame.
The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the all high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Yeah, blame. It's a fun blame game, So, yeah, the one thing I think it's going to keep us busy in the summer. So usually where people are like, we're bored in the summer. We also are seeing that, Mika is now said, hey, I'm going to continue. Now that's good for him because he's playing hockey. He's getting practice. Some other people are going to go to the beach and, and do stuff. He's going to go and play in the World Championships, for Sweden, which is great. So we'll be supportive, and, I know people are going to be sad, but he's going to come back. I know people want him to stay there, but it's not going to happen. He's going to come back. And actually people should be thrilled because he's going to be out there playing competitively, which should build up the confidence I think that people want to see in him. And
Absolutely. And don't forget, this season also he was a first-time dad that I'm sure, I'm sure that affects your sleep in some kind of way. I think he's going to come back and have an amazing season next year. That is one of my
We'll know
full
it's good.
for
We'll
me
know it's
bet.
good when he shaves his head.
Oh no, he can't. He can't.
I know. So, and then of course we also learned that JT Miller is going to go out and he's trying for professional golf, championship too. So, who knew these guys were so good?
Yeah.
If you want to be a winning hockey team, you better not be that good at golf. Come on.
Yeah.
We need to be playing more, guys. So,
I'm excited. I am excited to see what these guys do in the off season. I mean, if you remember last year, Rempe went out and trained his butt off to learn how to skate, learn how to fight. And he had arguably one of the best seasons of anybody on this team this year. So I feel like with his kind of energy and enthusiasm, hopefully he keeps that going and comes back even stronger next year.
Yeah. And so with the story, like he's been living with the Quick family, and he's graduating. He's graduating to his own place. So his poor kid's grown up and he's moving out. And so I think he's moving up to Westchester. So I was telling my girlfriend he's moving up there. I'm like, we're gonna go find him. You can't miss an 8-foot tall guy. So so she'll be new to the area too. So that'll be fun to see. And that means he's also moving closer to the rink, up there. So
and I originally from Westchester, have a lot of friends there, so we can have some spies out, seeing if we can spot Rempe out in the wild. That would be a fun little safari.
Let's go Rempe hunting. So there, and then I think and hopefully Edstrom comes back too, because there's still a lot of faces to see and see what they do. You especially with the younger players, and seeing how Perot went back to school, which is cute. I forget how young they are too, or more like I forget I'm older. I'm like, he's going. I gotta go finish my classes. I missed a few assignments. So he went back and he's finishing up school, and then we'll kind of see how these younger kids, and how they are. I think it'll be an exciting summer to kind of see, what pans out on that stuff. So we have that. So yeah, so now we've kind of gone rid of the old stuff, and playoffs have begun. And it's been an amazing start to the week. I'm watching, I don't know about you, but I'm trying to watch as many of the games as I can. We were talking about it earlier. I'm enjoying the stress of not stressing out so much, with the exception of one or two. Everyone, it's not a surprise. I hate the Capitals. I apologize. I always apologize to Shirley in advance, but she knows I don't like them. And I have a long history with that. And that's the only time I'm like, I get frustrated is, that one or two teams. And we're battling that because you don't want Canadians to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm also like looking at teams. I'm like, okay, you don't like the team, but you have to like Marty St. Louis. And I'm like, I hate the Oilers, but I love Knobloch. And I'm like, why the coaches I like are on teams I don't like? I'm like, let's get Knobloch. Can we just be like,
I totally agree.
Come back to us.
This has been fun with so many games that are happening, and for the most part, the energy is there. I don't think the energy is always reflected in the scores, because as of right now, we're looking at a couple of 2-0 leads. Game 4 for Toronto Senators is tomorrow, and Toronto's up 3-0 in that series. Minnesota is leading the Golden Knights 2-1. The Kings are up 2-0 over the Oilers. Washington's up 2-0 over the Canadiens, and and Carolina is up 2-0 over the Devils. And of course, our friends from Winnipeg. Winnipeg is leading the series 2-1 against the Blues.
It's been great. I mean, yeah, Toronto's already kind of going on to game 4. Everyone else is starting game 3s. This is where it starts to get super fun and exciting. What have you watched anything that you've really enjoyed so far?
Well, I've definitely caught the King's Harmonica ladies, which has been one of the most entertaining choices that have been made. If you have not had the opportunity to watch the Kings national anthem. It is a group of women. I think they're Korean. I think it's Korean women from the senior center in a beginner harmonica class, all doing the national anthem on harmonicas, and they've brought them back multiple times already. I think this is going to become a thing.
We're hoping, the team is now called, they're dubbed the Harmonic Kings. I've already seen the logo changed. I had to kind of grow into it myself. I think when I was watching it, I sent you a post saying, what's happening? I'm like, I don't know what's happening here, because they're playing Edmonton. They they had a singer sing the national, the Canadian national anthem, and then all of a sudden, hands on all these women playing harmonicas, and I was like, oh, this is weird. And I texted Matt, and it was interesting, because I was like, this is odd. I mean, I think any other game, but for the first opening day of playoffs, this is weird. However, there's a story, So when Matthew was like, South Asia is one of the birthplaces of the harmonica, and so that's so they kind of ties in the Koreatown harmonica choir. Again, silly, and everybody was singing along, so it does get unity into the building. But here's where the history comes into, and I'm not for sure, but I think this is where they're kind of taking it from. This choir actually played on Korea night during the season, and they were playing against the Bruins, and they beat the Bruins 6-2, so they creamed them. So I think the thought was that it would help them overcome, beating the Oilers, since this is the fourth time that the Kings and the Oilers have met in the first round, and the Oilers have taken the Kings on and beaten them in the first round. So they're hoping fourth time is a charm. So I think they're trying to bring out all their good luck things. And that's why they brought them back, I think. So it'll be amazing if we see them, if there's game 5, come back and continue. And right now the Kings are up 2-0. It's been an amazing series. The first game, which was, I think, the most exciting game to date, the Kings were up 4-0. Edmonton started coming back in the end. Stupid McDavid, they scored, they tied it up with a minute and a half to go. The crowd's silent. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a Christian. I'm like, maybe I should not watch it. I don't want them to lose. And I start to kind of walk away. And then 40 seconds later, 40 seconds at the end of the game, the Kings score to win. The crowd goes wild. I mean, this is playoff hockey, and it was great. I think my son had 4 heart attacks, and the kids get all quiet, and then they had a better game on game 2 with I guess 6-2 win, which I kind of thought was better. So tonight they play. I'm excited. I'm definitely going to be watching that game and seeing how that goes, because the expectations are always going to win at home, but when you start losing at home and losing, that's when it gets good, and that's where our brackets are going to start to kind of fill out. We're alive so far. I'm already thinking I'm losing. I had the Capitals losing to the Canadiens because they're scrappy. So we'll see how that goes. And I think everyone else, unless Avalanche might not make it too. So we'll see. Dallas.
Well, I'm going to say because with the NHL brackets, so Double D-Fense does have a bracket league, and we have, I think, about 12 people competing in our brackets. Thank you guys for joining, and there will be a prize for whoever wins. We have, I think people are voting with their hearts, because we do have a lot of people who have picked Winnipeg to win the Cup, and I know we have some Winnipeg folks who listen to this podcast.
I would like to see that happen too. I know, I want to see it happen for them too.
We do have 3 people who have the Avalanche to win, 1 Toronto Maple Leafs, and 2 Vegas Golden Knights. So those are some interesting choices.
I don't think so. So right now, as of yesterday, I think the Leafs were projected to win by Data Driven Hockey. I would definitely shout that site out. I do like their stats. Are projected to win, and I got a lot of laughing emojis on that one. So, so I definitely agree. I kind of have been pulling through the first round. I don't think Ottawa's strong enough to take on, them, and it's kind of proving that way. I don't think that that the Leafs are going to make it past the next round, whoever that may be. But regardless of who it is, the teams are just too strong right now, I think, on that side. So I think that's where it's going to end. Again, my whole work team is in Toronto, so I'm like, be careful. I'm like, people are going to be riding in the streets and, and just to see, and then I don't know what's going to happen when they lose. So, hey, as long as the Capitals get taken out soon.
And it would be nice if Carolina could sweep the Devils because that right now they're up 2-0 in that series. So that's looking good.
So, on that, and this is where this week I've discovered my new favorite thing. My new favorite thing is the Lightning radio announcers. So I'm driving around, doing errands, like, let me listen to your game. And I throw on the Lightning game, and I just said, "Oh, I'm gonna listen to the Lightning, radio." And I'm listening, and then I'm just hearing them talking, and just it's one guy doing like the play-by-plays, and then the color guy. He sounds. I don't mean this to be mean. It's just when you don't know and you listen, I'm like, this is an old man, talking, and he's just throwing in comments, and he would stop in mid-sentence, and then I recorded and I sent it to you, and then you hear like something happened. And you hear, oh no.
Yeah,
wow.
it was so personal.
What are you doing? That's Kachuk. That's what he's gonna do. Oh, don't do that. And the comments are hilarious. I'm dying. And it's like a little man, and we're texting, I'm telling you, I'm like, it's just the funniest thing. And I was even giggling through that video. I loved it all. And then I go and I look it up, and their main play-by-play announcer is Dave Mishkin, but the color commentary is none other than Phil Esposito. So definitely a lifetime fan of Phil's, but he is 83, so he does sound 83. And even last night, Martian's in the mix. There's a bunch of fighting. There was a couple boarding calls that they missed. Again, I'm listening, so I've got that perspective of it. And then he's just like, leave him alone. Just leave him alone. That's not necessary. What is he doing? I'm just like, it's my new favorite thing. So if you're driving around, you're doing errands, and you forget and you can't watch the game, throw it on the radio. NHL apps, just get your NHL, throw it on the radio and listen to it. And you will not be disappointed in listening to these guys. I think Dave does a great job in doing the play-by-plays. And again, the other thing I love, and I think we were talking about this season too, is trying to, maybe switch a channel, listen to someone else talk. Sometimes we see people that are really biased, like ESPN, and so when they're doing announcing. And I really do enjoy, that's one of the reasons I think where everybody loves Sam. It's like, when people aren't playing good, that you rave the people who play well, regardless of the team they are, and you kind of say things when they're not doing well, and you just do your thing. There's no real bias, even though you might, obviously be a fan. So, and that's kind of what I'm seeing with these guys, and I loved it. And then I had flipped it on to Toronto, and 30 seconds into the game, I mean, the guy's having like an anxiety attack. He's like, oh my God, and he was just crazy.
So much better for poor Toronto.
And it almost scared me, when I'm driving. He's like, oh my God. And it was like, I was like, what's happening? So they're a little excited over there, which is fun. I flipped it back on. So I'm enjoying kind of, just again, driving around, travel, listening to the game. And when you're, now we're stuck with ESPN right now, and in watching the games, because that's what they're contracted to. So if you really want to kind of get your hometown
and TNT and True TV, they're bouncing between all of those.
But then we got the same guys there, so you're kind of losing your kind of hometown feel for things. So if you want to kind of reset it and do something a little different, if you're watching the game, throw on the radio part and just enjoy it. And definitely, if you have something you find that's fun, definitely share it along, because it's been super fun to kind of follow that. And I definitely will be following. I can't wait for the next game. I just want to throw the radio on and listen to them talk. It's just the best. I can't get enough of them. I'm like, I just want to go and hug them and fight them and just squeeze them. So come on, Lightning, you got to win. I need more of you.
Yeah. You're only gonna get a couple more games at this rate.
Apparently so. Yeah. That Kachuk guy. so it's so good, that one I don't think will last. I don't know. We'll see. Again, game 3s and 4s are really great, and then you kind of see really how things are made. I didn't really have anybody sweeping, so hopefully Toronto loses a game. We'll know
Yeah.
tonight or tomorrow whenever they play. So we have that. But yeah, very exciting start to the playoffs, I think. No real big surprises, and so we'll kind of see how like things start to shake up, by the next time we meet and talk and see. And by that time, I think, some of these coaches will be rehired somewhere else. So it's start to see like kind of, I think the Ducks coach was fired,
Yeah.
Kraken's coach was fired. Um, you know, things are still in the mix with, with other teams. So as we kind of hear, we've got a couple of retirements, coming on. I know that, a lot of people are pulling for the Wild to kind of, have Fleury play, a few more extra
Mm.
games. And then of course, if the Kings and Vegas make it through the first round together, my son has vowed that he's going to go to every single game since he's a Kings fan and he lives in Vegas. Um, so he's all set for round 2 with his fingers crossed, so
I hope for his sake, I hope that works out.
I know, me
That
too. I
sounds
want to go to a game.
that would be
So,
amazing.
that might be an
It
option
would be.
too.
Yeah,
Just
the energy must be amazing during the playoffs there.
Yeah. So, right now I hope everyone's brackets are doing well. There's no points yet, so we'll see, how we do. It might already be thrown off if the Canadians lose.
I just had a quick peek at mine, and if everything continues the way, like with who is leading, my first round will be perfect. Not necessarily the number of games, because with the brackets they do ask you to pick not only the winner but the number of games. But right now I'm set for all of my teams to go on to the
Yeah, I
next.
just hope I'm not last, if you know. So in the rankings, I'm like, so we'll see.
We
I just
don't
had
judge. We don't judge. There's always in brackets. There's always some crazy upset that is very unpredictable. So there's no judgy in double defense. In
I
double
didn't
defense
do
bracket
it,
land.
but maybe I still should. Maybe I'll do that tonight. If I do, I'll post it using my magic 8 ball to see what it says for
Well, I
for
mean,
each player.
the corgi is always
The
picking the
corgi's
team.
the
So
best. I'm always gonna post that, and so that was up. Maybe I'll redo it on our story. But everyone, you can follow that corgi with everything. I know he does all of them. So, but yeah, maybe we'll throw in a couple other ones. I have my magic 8 ball, or something kind of which you can throw in there to see which
yeah,
is our
and I'll just
instincts or our magic 8 ball.
And I'll just throw out too, if anybody hasn't submitted their bracket, just shoot us a message. Let us know who you think is going to be in the finals. I'm very curious about everybody's thoughts. Might as well make your predictions now, and we'll talk about it on the next episode.
Absolutely. We got a pack-filled weekend full of hockey. It's still going on. And if, I know for all us Ranger fans, just enjoy it all. And, some of these people will going out there and picking their prospects for who's up and coming, the next year. So just I, I'm enjoying it right now. The games are good. They're particularly close and played well. The refs are still doing a shitty job in making calls and letting things go. So I don't know what that's about, but we're keeping an eye on that. We've seen a couple of interesting plays too, like, and we didn't really see that too much in the regular season. At least I didn't. But there was 2 calls in 2 days with a high stick call. So at the Kings game, there was a high stick call, and if it draws blood, then they put it once they put it to a major, then it goes under review automatically. And in both cases, it was called a high stick, and in both cases, it was reviewed because it was 4 minutes. And in both cases, it was overturned because it was called a follow through and not just a high stick. So if it's in the course of the motion of a play and it's a follow through, it is not a penalty. So we know that's a rule, but it's something we haven't seen, and we've seen it twice in 2 days in the playoffs. So we're seeing some expert acting and diving skills on some of these players at the moment too. So things to look out for as you're watching. Look for those things. It's good when, again, you're not focusing on your team. You can focus on other things, like all the junk that goes on with the bad calls, the overlooked calls, on boardings. I gotta say, I think Liz sent us a clip where it was the Toronto game where the goalie's hitting the guy 3-4
Yeah.
times in front of the net, and then 2 seconds later in front of the ref, and then 2 seconds later they call the senator for a penalty. So that kind of stuff's crazy. So the refs are doing stellar as usual. Bravo. But they're all getting through it and playing. So it adds to the entertainment value of it. And so what makes it more enjoyable to kind of sit and watch. So, and if you get any of those, send me those clips too, because that's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it's going to get juicy as it goes on.
Ah,
especially as this gets more neck and neck. Well, we have a lot of hockey to watch. You guys have a lot of hockey to watch, so I think we can call it here. We really appreciate everybody who's stuck with us, even though the Rangers are not in it anymore. That's okay. We will be with you every step of the way during the playoffs, and then well into the summer. And keeping you posted on all things Rangers.
Absolutely. So there's a couple things. One, definitely shout out to the USA team for the IHF championship that happened over the last week. We're going to follow the World Championships too. PWHL is going into playoffs. And a quick final shout out to our own Double D-Fense Liz, who's going to be running a marathon next week. So definitely, everybody shout her out. I'm going to post pictures. We'll have some fun with that, but she's been training hard and definitely proud of her.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that.
So we're excited. We'll be down there cheering and representing Double D-Fense at the race and cheering you along all the way. So we're very excited about that. And definitely, give her a shout out if you as you're listening, and then we'll give you a follow up on that too. So something to look forward to.
Yeah, I will definitely do a full race recap, and if we have any fans who are in Orange County, that is the race I'm doing. So come on out and cheer me along.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Christine.
Yay. Have a great week, guys.
Have a great week, guys.